Now we are going to discuss the process of quotation. What is a quotation? You have taken so many quotations in your life probably. If you want to take an internet connection, you just move to a new apartment or home, you call up the vendors, right? You call up Comcast or you call up AT&T and you ask them what's the price. You compare the price and then take what's the right decision and then choose a provider. What are you doing here? You are taking a quote and then comparing the quote for prices and bandwidths and whatnot, and then making a decision on which one to go for, right? And if you want to buy a phone, you do the same thing. You go to a shop or you go online, you compare the different phones: iPhone, Samsung, LG, Motorola, so on. Want to buy a car? You do the same thing. You go to different dealers, get quotations from different dealers, and then compare them and make what's the right decision. Same thing with coffee, not different. Now, when we talked about contracts and scheduling agreements in one of the previous sessions, we said we're going to negotiate with the vendor using a buyer's negotiation sheet. And then if the vendor is willing to offer us a better price, then we go with it, right? That's negotiating with one vendor. Now, you can negotiate with multiple vendors. And how do you do that? You can do that using a formal process called quotation. A quotation is a request for pricing and other details on a product or service. In this case, we are asking the vendors to quote the price of coffee at a fixed lot for a fixed amount, for a fixed quantity. For example, we want 100 kilos of flour, right? And we know that vendor 4001 supplies coffee, 4002 supplies coffee, and say 4003 also supplies coffee. Now we want to compare the prices and then make a decision, right? Of course, price is not always the only criteria. There are other terms like payment terms, quality, timely delivery, other factors as well that go into that decision. Because when you compare iPhone and Samsung, you just don't go for the price, right? You look at quality, you look at so many other factors. Same thing with coffee. But you want to compare the price first. Why? Because it's a very important factor, right? So let's compare the price of 4001, 4002, or 4003 and then make a decision. So how do we do that? The first step is send a request for a quotation to these vendors: 4001, 4002, 4003. This is called request for quotation, RFQ. What is it going to contain? It's going to contain the quantity that we require, what we require, and when we require them by. And the vendor is going to respond with his prices and if he can deliver them within that deadline or not. That is called a response to the RFQ. So the vendor responds. So this is called the response to the RFQ. And this response is documented as a quotation. Quote 1, quote 2, and quote 3. Because we have sent out this RFQ with 3 vendors, right? And each of them sends a response. And each of these responses is documented in 3 separate quotations. And now you can do a price comparison. And one of the bids becomes successful, meaning based on a variety of factors, like we said: price, delivering criteria, quality, timely delivery. Based on these parameters, somebody in the purchasing department is going to make a decision and award that order to one of the vendors. This process is called the quotation process. You could call it RFQ process, quotation process, either way. So let's create that in the system.